Alright guys, today we are going to be solving some proportions. The vocabulary that we're working with today is basically just what is a proportion. So a proportion is an equation stating that two ratios are equal. Equal is the most important part. So for example, if we have 1 over 2 is equal to 2 over 4. This could also be read as 1/2 is equal to 2/4. A proportion is sort of like a fraction, but with this we're comparing things. So if they're equal, so 1/2 is equal to 2/4, thus this is a proportion. One thing that's really cool about proportions is that the cross products, if you multiply them together, they are equal in every proportion. I'll show you what I mean. So this is called the butterfly method. So you're going to create a butterfly. You're going to multiply 3 times 6. That's 18. Then you're going to multiply 2 times 9. That also equals 18. And with this, you can see that 18 is equal to 18. Thus, it is a proportion. And it also kind of looks like a butterfly with the wings and the antennas. So what I want you to do now is to pause the video, and I want you to see if 4/5 and 8/10, I want to see if those are proportional or not. So pause the video, unpause it when you're ready to see what I've done. Okay, so we have 4/5 and 8/10. So I'm going to complete the butterfly method. I'm going to multiply the cross products, but instead of drawing the antenna up top, so it's going to be easier when you're writing it in your notebook. I'm just going to multiply 8 times 5, and I'm going to put it just a little bit lower down at the bottom. So then I'm bring my equal sign down, and then cross multiply the other one. 4 times 10 is 40. Does 40 equal 40? Yes, it does. Thus, this is a proportion. So now I've shown you the butterfly method. Now I'm going to show you what I like to call the multiplication or division method. So now I have two fractions. I have 2/3 and I have 10/15. I want to see if these proportions are equal. So I'm going to look at just the numerators. How many times does 2 go into 10? You can multiply 2 times 5 to get 10. If you can multiply the numerator and the denominator by the same number and get the same proportion, then it is equal. So this is a proportion. So what I want you to do now is I want you to pause the video and try this one down here. This is the multiplication method. Unpause the video when you're ready to see what I have done. Alright, so I'm going to look at the numerators, 4 and 16. How many times does 4 go into 16? 4 goes into 16 4 times. Thus, if I can multiply the numerator and the denominator by 4, then it is a proportion. So does 6 times 4, does that equal 24? Yes, it does. Thus, this is a proportion. Now the second part over to the right, I'm going to focus on the division method, because we see how this proportion, the first proportion that we get, is larger than the second one, or it has larger numbers. So now we're going to divide. 24 divided by what gets you 4? So 24 divided by 6 gets you 4. If you can divide the numerator and the denominator by the same thing, it is proportional. Thus, is 30 divided by 6 5? Yes, it is. Thus, this is proportional. So what I want you to do is to pause the video down at and try this blue one at the bottom. Unpause the video when you're ready to see what I've done. Alright, so I'm going to look at the numerators. I have 72 and I have 8. How many is 72 divided by what equals 8? So 72 divided by 9 is equal to 8. So can we divide 54 by 9 and get 6? Yes, we can. Thus, 54 divided by 9 is 6. Thus, this is proportional. So here we go. Now we are solving for x. We have a variable in either the numerator or the denominator from the problem. Now we have to solve for x. Remember, you have learned how to find a proportion two different ways, either the butterfly method or the multiplication division method. So the first one, I'm going to walk you through both of the ways to solve it. And then you're going to solve the second one, however you want. So if we have 4/5 is equal to x over 30, first way I'm going to show you is the butterfly method. So I'm going to multiply 5 times x. Remember, 5 times x is just 5x. Then multiply the other cross product. 4 times 30 is equal to 120. Now we have a one-step equation. Now if we have 5 times x, the opposite of multiplication is division. So we'll divide by 5. Divide by 5. In this case, x is equal to 24. So that's the butterfly method. So here's the other method. If we had 4/5 is equal to x over 30, so we don't know what 4 and x can go into, but we know that 5 into 30, 5 times 6 is 30. Thus, since we multiplied by 6 in the denominator, we must multiply by 6 in the numerator. So 4 times 6 is equal to 24. So now what I want you to do is to pause the video and try this problem off to the right. Solve for x. Unpause the video when you're ready to see what I did. Okay, now we have 10 and 2/10 divided by 4 is equal to x divided by 12. Now, I know that some of you did the butterfly method because that's the way you feel comfortable. That's perfectly fine with me. But the way that I see it, I know that 4 times 3 is 12. Now, since I know that these are proportional, I know that I have to multiply the numerator also by 3. So now I just have 10 and 2/10 times 3 to get x. So 10 and 2/10 times 3 is equal to 30 and 6/10. Thus, x is equal to 30 and 6/10. Alright, so the next two ones that we have are real-world problems. So, in this case, the Haywood Car Wash, they washed 128 cars in 3 hours. At that rate, how many cars can they wash in 9 hours? So, the important information that we have. 128 cars, 3 hours, 9 hours. So, when we are setting up proportions, this is extremely important. So we have our proportions, or we have our ratios that we can create. This first ratio that I want to put all of the information together that pertains to the Haywood Car Wash. So if we have 128 cars in 3 hours, I could put 128, because these are the cars, are all going to be in the numerator. In the denominator, I'm just going to put the hours. So, with 128 cars, you can do that in 3 hours. So now we are trying to find how many cars can they do in 9 hours. So since the hours are on the bottom, the 9 goes in the bottom as well, in the denominator as well. So we are trying to solve for x. On this case, I'm going to use the multiplication or division method. So how many times does 3 go into 9? 3 times what is equal to 9? So 3 times 3 is equal to 9. So if I multiply by 3 on the bottom, or the denominator, in the numerator, I also have to multiply by 3. So now I have to do 128 times 3 to find for x. So if we do 128 times 3, we have 24, 6, 7, 8. They can do 384 cars. So x is equal to 384 cars. Alright, so now what I want you to do is to pause the video and try this word problem yourself, and unpause the video when you're ready to see what I have done. Alright, so this word problem is an example of scale, because we're talking about maps. So a map is basically just a scaled down model of the way that it actually is. So on a map of Florida, the distance between Jacksonville and Tallahassee is 7.5 centimeters. So if 2 centimeters equals 40 miles, what is the actual distance between the two cities? So let's underline the important information. We have 7.5 centimeters. We have 2 centimeters is equal to 40 miles. So let's see here. We have our two ratios. So one ratio, what do we know that is correct? So we know that 2 centimeters is equal to 40 miles. So what we could do, we could put centimeters up top, and then we could put miles at the bottom. So if we know if 2 centimeters is equal to 40 miles, and we know that on the map the distance between it is 7.5 centimeters. So since the centimeters are in the numerator, we could put 7.5 in the numerator as well. So we are trying to find the distance between Jacksonville and Tallahassee. So that is what we're solving for x. Alright, so in this I am going to use the cross products. So what is 40 times 7.5? So 40 times 7.5, we have 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 4 is 20, bring down a 0, 7 times 0 is 0, 7 times 4 is 28, add them all up, 0, 0, 0, carry the 1, 3. So since we have a decimal point, just move it over once. So from here, we'd move it over once. So that would make it 300. So we have 300 on the left side. And on the right side, what is 2 times x? So now we have 300 is equal to 2 times x. So from here, all that we would have to do is divide by 2, and x is equal to 150 miles. Time for a quick review. You've learned the butterfly method and the multiplication and division method. Use those two to solve proportions. Next thing, make sure you line up the proportion correctly in word problems. That's so extremely important. That's the most common way that you are going to miss an answer on word problems when you're setting up proportions. Just make sure you set it up correctly. Also, look down in the comments section on this video, and I gave you 2 extra videos if you're still having problems with that you can look at. You guys are going to do great. Let me know if you have any questions.